wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
One of the great rabbis in Israel, a Hasidic rabbi, they prayed Mincha with Minyan in front of everybody passing in Manhattan. Where? Right there, near the World Center. After he finished the davening, the prayer, he said, say bye-bye to those buildings because you are not going to see them no more.
You know, I wrote about bin Laden 1 year before the attack on the World Trade Center.
We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun, or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, he's the boogeyman they need.
And whatever's going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. I wonder what Osama bin Laden's targets are supposed to be. They must do something terrible.
If you really pay attention, they were telling us about 9/11 years before it happened. There is no way that's true.
Look! It's the towers! They're falling!
So this guy right here, Howard Lutnick, he keeps catching my attention, and I think he's probably one of the most shady characters in this whole saga that we're witnessing right now. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's starting to make the rounds. A lot of us talk about 9/11 and Epstein, and I think it's all starting to come together. So you guys know Lucky Larry, right? Larry Silverstein, who took out like a $4 billion insurance policy for terrorism because he owned the World Trade Centers just a couple months before the whole attack. And Lucky Larry, the only time that he missed work was when he went to a dermatology appointment that his wife set up. Did you guys know that? But now this video just came out with Trump and Lucky Lutnick, we'll call it. Watch this.
I mean, he literally watched the plane go into the building, go into the World Trade Center. Amazing story. That alone is an amazing story. He was delayed because his wife insisted that he finally, after years, take his child to school. So he took his child to school that one day, because normally he would have been in the building at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's that business, right? So you owe your wife a lot and your child a lot, right? But his wife insisted that he take his child to school. For 5 years he didn't do it. He was horrible. What kind of a father was he? Okay, I'll do it. And he was therefore driving down at 8:43, whatever the time was, down the West Side Highway, and he saw the plane go into the side of the building. He said, wow. And he occupied the top 3 floors of the World Trade Center, of the one building of the World Trade Center. And you know what happened there? He lost 100% of the people in that, his whole company was there.
Wow, so Lucky Larry and Lucky Lutnick have the same stories. And here's a video I just found of him crying a long time ago about the victims of 9/11. Kind of reminds me of a grieving widow or something.
Take care of my 700 families. 700 families. I have 700 families. I can't say it. I can't say it without crying.
Yeah, we need to keep our eye on Lucky Lutnick.
You do know the Mossad was behind 9/11, right? No?
A number of foreign governments may have had foreknowledge of 9/11, but the Israeli government stands out in particular. And here's why. On the morning of 9/11, a group of 5 Israeli nationals purported to have witnessed the initial explosion of the World Trade Center and were seen to be celebrating the event. At the time, the celebrations received quite a bit of mainstream media coverage.
Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S. who may have known things they didn't tell us before September 11th.
It's striking to see operatives from a supposedly allied country celebrating the mass murder of Americans. But it is true that some in Israel saw the attack as a good thing for them. A September 12, 2001 article in the New York Times quotes now Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responding to the 9/11 attacks. Quote, "It is very good," before adding, well, not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy. Netanyahu predicted that the attack would strengthen the bond between our two peoples, because we've experienced terror over so many decades, but the United States has now experienced a massive hemorrhaging of terror. According to FBI documents, the Israelis caught celebrating the 9/11 attacks had videotaped the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center and may have possessed foreknowledge of the same. When the Israelis were arrested in New Jersey, they were carrying box cutters, multiple passports, thousands of dollars in cash, and photos of themselves smiling with the World Trade Center burning in the background.
The Israelis are always for the Israelis first. Always. They don't like the United States, except for the most part, our money.
Let's see what Rabbi Finkelstein has to say about this.
Jews in the towers. A lot of Jews died in those towers, spiritually.
Oh, I see. Well, there's 3,000 Jews were not at work that day in those towers. That just gave a lot of people have the impression that the Jewish population out there in New York, was aware that something was going to happen and they didn't show up for work that day.
Yeah, we got a call from the Kahilla that Ariel and some of the boys in the Mossad, they got together and they wired up the buildings and they took them down. It was going to be a hard thing to take them down anyway because we wanted to build some new structures and the buildings were getting old. And it was time to bring them down. This way, we make some shekels by destroying the building. Old Silverman, who's a good friend of mine there, Larry, he got a 2-for-1 there, and he doubled the insurance magically just 3 months before it happened, and then he got a 2-for hit on it, so he made like 4 times his money. I should have been in on the deal. He asked me, but I said, I don't know, let me think about it. It took a little too long for me to think about it.
We are living in a movie, Butterfly, but who is writing the script?
Although this narrative is still trotted out when the story of the dancing Israelis is raised in the media, it is an easily demonstrable lie. FBI reports confirmed that the men were not taking somber pictures of a horrific event. When their 76 pictures were developed, they revealed the men had indeed been celebrating, smiling, hugging each other, and high-fiving. One of the pictures even featured Sivan Kurzberg holding a lighter up with the burning tower in the background. And these were no ordinary tourists. Oded Elner had $4,700 stuffed into his sock. They lied to the police about where they had been that morning. They were carrying plane tickets for immediate departure to different places around the globe. The FBI confirmed that 2 of the men had ties to Israeli intelligence and came to suspect that they had indeed been on a mission for the Mossad. And of course, after returning to Israel, Elner claimed on national Israeli TV that they had been sent there to document the event.
And at that point we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
Their purpose was to document the event? But how could they possibly have known what event they were documenting at that point, before the second plane strike, when those few who even knew about the situation had assumed it to be an accident or pilot error? And when did they arrive at the parking lot to document the event anyway? The FBI reports show how the men gave confused and often conflicting accounts of when and how they learned about what was happening and when they arrived at the parking lot. Oded Elner even said they had arrived there shortly after 8 a.m., which would have been 45 minutes before the attacks even began. This is in line with one of the eyewitnesses that had placed their urban moving systems van at the parking lot at 8 a.m. How could they have been in place and ready to document the event unless they knew what was about to happen?